Good evening, Rick. Would you believe it's Dr. Doom?
What's on your evil mind?
Hold your insulting tongue and mark my words well.
How about this rumor that you are really Iron Man, Mr. Stark?
Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. I am your host, Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News Nerds Need on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Instagram.
South Carolina with Columbia down the way.
And the sound effects you've heard come from none other than our man in Brooklyn, @agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram.
What's up, everybody? Representing BK to the fullest.
Tim's for my hooligans in Brooklyn.
Indeed, indeed. And you can find this here podcast on your on the Coast of the Podcast Network, the CSPN.us.
Do it today.
And you can also find us on your podcast perusal place of choice, as I try to talk and type, wow, I shouldn't have said that. You can find us on your podcast perusal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the Coast of the Podcast Network SoundCloud page.
Make sure to hit like, subscribe, and leave us all the positive 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts.
Indeed, and you can find us recording mostly every Thursday night, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the YouTube channel of The Click Nation. That's youtube.com/TheClickNation and twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles.
Again, please hit like, subscribe, and leave us great reviews, and hit the notification button so that you know when we are online broadcasting and recording.
Indeed, and shout out to Benji Games who's joining us on the YouTubes. What's going on, good sir?
What's going on?
All right. So first, folks, we are going to get into some MCU shenanigans because the first episode of Marvel's Secret Invasion drops this past Wednesday night, aka yesterday as of this recording. And we're, of course, we're not going to get spoilerific about it because of the map, but we might, there's some things here and there that might come out.
Right. I mean, we always go very light on spoilers because we end up recording literally a day or two after at most.
Right.
So ultimately what we have here is the return of the MCU on the Disney Plus small screen, the Disney Plus small screen. And it is a welcome return, although, and obviously they play this up during the episode, and this is the most minor of spoilers. I actually felt Sam Jackson, aka Nick Fury, think to himself, if not say to himself,
I'm getting too old for this shit.
I saw that one coming.
Seriously,
Yeah.
like it was one of the overarching themes of the episode, because we had characters that Nick was running into and interacting with, basically telling him exactly that.
Although there's a theory going around on the internet that he might be putting on an act.
Possibly.
I can kind of see it.
Possibly. So we'll see how this all plays out in the next episode, which is supposed to be much more action-packed or much more filled with things going on, because much like a comic that we both read this week, episode 1 is a lot of setup.
Yep, indeed. And I do remember someone asking, not me particularly, but it's just kind of asking on the internet, do you need to watch or rewatch Captain Marvel to get anything out of this? And I would say no. Because actually, they even kind of go through the finer points of, Nick Fury's involvement with in that situation anyway. But it's none of that is really, unless you just haven't seen it at all.
You need to know, right? Whatever you need to know, they literally cover in like 2 lines of dialogue.
Right. Unless you hadn't seen it at all, that's a different story. But yeah, but if you've seen it, like you're definitely not missing the whole hype by not rewatching it.
Right.
So. That being said, we're kind of getting to the corner. I know some people missing this corner. I even seen people or 1 or 2 articles saying, or at least one article saying, "Is this Marvel's Andor?" I'm like, that's a little too soon to be asking that question. First of all, and second of all, some would argue that the MCU's kind of been doing that well before Andor was a thing.
Yeah, I would say that. I would be among those to say that.
So, but I get what they're trying to go before by making the parallels.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. Like I said, it's still kind of soon to tell, but and also like, I don't know. Like, it's not like we haven't seen spy type stuff in the course of MCU, to the degree of whether it would parallel to Andor or not, which is not saying that's spy stuff, but to the kind of intrigue that gets into, like, for the MCU, it did what it did. Put it that way.
Right. And you know what? There are interesting things that the MCU can still explore because they have that basis of Shield and spy things going on that is just integral to the MCU, like the fabric of the MCU. Mm-hmm. There's just some of that stuff, there's, obviously woven through the fabric of the story of Black Widow and Captain America. So, at the end of the day, this is just more of, this is just another branch of that group of stories.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I think Andor was very much wholly, I don't want to say it's created out of whole cloth, but it's a previously unexplored part of the story.
Of Star Wars at that also.
Right. Like we had a little bit of it in Rogue One, a tiny bit of it in Rogue One, right. But Andor was a vastly different beast as a story than Rogue One.
Exactly.
Anything else?
Let's see. Well,
we got introduced to a bunch of characters, right? That had been teased through casting.
Yes.
We saw a pretty cool guest appearance right up front. Right up front, there was a guest appearance. Like, oh, I didn't know this guy was going to be in this.
Having seen a trailer, I did, but yeah.
Right. I've been staying away from trailers, unless I see it in the movie theaters. I've been staying away from that stuff. So I didn't really know that character was going to be in it. So that was a pleasant surprise to me, right at the beginning, right off the top.
Right. And without going into too much, into spoiler territory, like we had some Agent 7 and I was talking about the validity of certain people being there, being here, based on a thing that I won't go into that you see early on.
Right.
So it's like, that's curious, but
and interestingly, so far, and I did see something scroll across my social media feed this afternoon, where I believe the director of the series was told not to read the Secret Invasion comic storyline because, this is not an adaptation. They just took the title.
Right, which is fair because they couldn't properly do it.
Right.
Without certain other things being in place.
Right. So, it's very much in the tradition of the MCU period, where they borrow the title and maybe adapt some of the themes, but the details are very much left up to the current batch of creators dealing with the show and or movie.
Right. And I'm just going to say here on a side note, speaking of the MCU, we're going to have another parallel that we talk about when we get to the books.
Right. Okay.
But that
so
being
I
said,
think we covered. I was gonna say I think we covered. Secret Invasion. We kept it very light on details, folks. But we why.
Mm-hmm.
This has only been out for not even 48 hours. So let's go deeper into it next week when we have another episode under our belts, and we'll we won't have a movie protocol to deal with. So we'll probably have a good chunk of Secret Invasion done by the time we have to go back into movie protocol.
Right. I will say that we have an actress that is a candidate for the triple quadruple threat, I guess at this point. Emilia Clarke. She's done Marvel. She's done Star Wars. She's done Game of Thrones. I think all she's missing under her belt is Star Trek.
Right. Like if you combine Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings together,
right? You got your fantasy, exactly. So,
the fantasy stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Once you put Game of Thrones in under the fantasy wing, then she's close.
So so that's been a thing that's kind of popped up, but otherwise, like I said, good first episode. I'm looking forward to see the rest of it's only 6 episodes that we're going to get. So, and I assume and hope they're going to continue to push the hour mark if they're going to get everything out the way that they're trying to do.
I think so.
Yeah. But anyway, now we can push on to the books of the week and go back to that parallel that I was speaking of. Ultimate Invasion #1 happened this week.
Right. And this is a 4-issue limited series. Ultimate Invasion #1 is written by Jonathan Hickman with pencils by Brian Hitch, inks by Andrew Curry, colors by Alex Sinclair, and letters by none other than our favorite lettering python, busy letterer indeed, VC's Joe Caramagna. And much like the first episode of Secret Invasion in the MCU on Disney Plus, the first issue of Ultimate Invasion is mainly set up. And we have a pretty clear idea of what at least starts out to be the main focus of the antagonist / villain of this series. And it's not a big spoiler if we say that it is the maker, the ultimate version of Reed Richards. And we have some shenanigans he's up to, basically looting and heisting things from basically every member of the Illuminati. I was thinking of whether or not I had that the Illuminati sound effect. The sound drop.
Clue,
I think it's
Clue.
Kid Capri.
It's Clue, DJ Clue.
Oh, is it Clue? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember. Like, which DJ is it? It's
Yeah, because he's like Clue, because you said it. He's like Clue Illuminati.
Exactly. Yeah. So. Exactly. I just couldn't remember if it was. I couldn't remember who it was exactly. So, but ultimately, the Illuminati are brought in, and it's kind of a nice nod to Secret Wars. The Hickman version of Secret Wars.
Right.
So to see Hickman kind of dive into that group again and to revisit their dynamic again, and to reassemble them. For this little mini event is kind of fun to see Hickman play around in. And I'll hand this off to Roddykat by saying that, by mentioning something I talked to him about in our pre-production meeting, which is it was kind of fun to kind of re-engage with Hickman's writing style and his cadence, even though these characters are all written very differently. You can kind of recognize Hickman's writing style, and it was kind of nice to re-engage with that after a while. Take it away.
So, yeah, I agree with Agent 70 on that because, yeah, it says, while we, as Agent 70 pointed out, we don't necessarily get the whole mumbo jumbo just yet. We definitely get, as Agent 7 said, the tone and whatnot, and the love of words that Hickman has in his writing, and that we love him for, I should say. Yeah. So saying that is not a slight. Is saying just like, okay, from everything leading up to his own Secret Worlds run, the Avengers and all that kind of stuff. Like, now we've always enjoyed his particular brand of writing. But that being said, so this particular issue felt like it was of a different time, and part of that is intentional with the art, because obviously they're trying to evoke the art style of the Ultimate Universe. Brian Hinch was there from the beginning, so obviously that was an obvious thing. But there were other parts of it, especially in bringing in the Illuminati, that kind of made this feel like this was of another time period, because obviously we hadn't seen the Illuminati in quite some time, especially, in the 616 version of it. So coming in, and another thing is, I totally forgot that the Maker was still actually around in the 616 in any fashion, because the last time I saw him, I was like, well, I thought they just got rid of him for good.
He's locked up.
Right.
They let him out. So,
exactly.
What's funny is that the group shot of the Illuminati updated their looks to reflect their current status.
Right. Exactly.
Right. So it was kind of funny. Like, oh, so that's, I forgot, not that I forgot, but I'm like, all right, so that's what Namor is wearing right now. That's what, whatchamacallit,
Xavier.
Professor X is wearing right now. I was like, oh, so that's what the Inhumans are up to. They're in a new place, and that's what they're called. And I'm like, oh, I hope Lockjaw makes it out of that okay.
Right. Which also made me think, it was like, wait, yeah, we hadn't seen Black Bolt or any of the Inhumans in a good minute. So,
right.
The hell?
That's like, I was about to say, that's fodder for a Google search to find out what what happened to them. Because if we don't know, guess what? Most people don't know.
Right, and it has been quite some time since they swept the Inhuman stuff under the rug. Right. So otherwise, that we gotta get to the setup, and we get the Maker's machinations, or at least what he's trying to do. He goes to visit someone who is not necessarily of a like mind, but a similar circumstance. I was about to say
the other refugee of the Ultimate Universe.
Right.
That's a spoiler without spoiling.
Yeah, and also if you've been, one, if you've been keeping up, you know who that is, but two, but if you've been watching the video version of this program, you kind of caught wind of who that person is.
Right.
So, but to just wrap that whole thing, it's like, yeah, it's interesting. I'm the curiosity is there to see where this is going to go and what lead up to, because I don't know. Supposedly there are reverberations coming out of this. To what extent we don't necessarily know, but I figure if they got Hickman on this, it's going to be something significant.
Yes, I think that we both agree on that. And once we heard that Hickman was working on this particular project, we could guess that there are going to be repercussions, reverberations, and ramifications. What other R words are kind of synonyms for that? You can put them into that. So ultimately, talk about alliteration right there, right, folks? So, you knew once Hickman was named that it was going to resonate. Oh yeah.
You were just stalling just so you can get that last one out. I saw the cogs moving. But also probably more than likely, some way, shape, or form is probably going to lead into his other thing, which is going to tie into the Hellfire Gala. Maybe not, but I I feel fairly confident. It seems like that's going to happen.
Right. It would make sense, but we'll see.
Yeah. That
It
being said-
remains to be seen.
Right. That being said, though, we can push on to another book, which is Avengers #2.
So, Avengers #2 is written by Jed McKay, with art by C.F. Villa, colors by Federico Blee, and letters by VC's Corey Petit. This issue is essentially a direct continuation of where we last left off in Avengers #1. Interestingly, it feels like this run on Avengers is, I don't know if it's I don't know if this is what McKay was getting at, but it definitely felt to me more like a Justice League story.
I can see that, and I feel like possibly.
So I'll hand it off to Roddykat, because that was basically the feel I got from reading this.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we know that Marvel and the Distinguished Competition has a tendency to refer to each other in the nicest possible. I'm going to say in the nicest possible way when they do stories. Sometimes their stories
Right.
of quite very similar. Maybe in one or two cases have the same people writing said story, but that's not a case that happens that often. And I can't say that this one is directly that, but I can see what the Justice League feel that the Age of 7 is talking about is in this. So after coming out of last issue,
I was about to say, hold that thought. I would
go
just say that I would supplement what I said by adding that there are definitely some Superman-esque scenes in this that some of the characters pull off.
Fair. That's fair. That is fair. So yeah, after the events of last issue, I would just say that the team is getting tips on things that are going to happen, but from a very dubious source, but everything so far has been coming true. And if that sounds somewhat kind of familiar, no, it is not the same catalyst that sparked off Civil War II. However, it is someone who would have some knowledge of events that happened after, well, that they could have access to having, let's put it that way.
Man, I haven't thought about Civil War II in a long time. As soon as you said that, I was like, why is this similar? Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that was the thing that kind of was like, whoa, oh man, no, we can't go back there again.
Yeah.
But it's like I said, but it's not that situation. But but there is a similarity to it, because not necessarily for the nature of it, but because of the fact that they're going off of gained information from a future source, I guess, a future leaning source, and that's a big hint to who is involved in this. But it's also kind of leading into, or starting to lean into, what Jed McKay has set up in his timeless one shot from the beginning of the year. I think because there was even a footnote to the last one, and I'm still not even sure. Now that I'm saying that everything from the book prior to that, the year before that, has all come out by now. Because I feel like we were talking behind the scenes, like, yeah, some of that stuff still hasn't really come to pass from that first timeless book. And also, this kind of makes me want to go back and read the more current timeless book, because like I don't remember everything that was.
Right, I barely remember anything that happened in the timeless book. They had a flashback sequence in this that reminded me of something from the timeless books, but I would have to go back and reread those.
Mm-hmm. So that's probably a thing
using our favorite tool, which I will not name because they do not sponsor us.
That's fine. We're going to talk about it later on anyway. But,
that's right.
So it's fine. But yeah, so just to kind of to close the door on this one, like there is still some interest in this with what's going on. Like I said, the whole spelling out, hey, there's some things that are about to happen, and Jed McKay is just kind of charting that course out with what's going on here. So we'll see what happens. Also, I guess I should be the one to say this because I'm fairly certain Agent 70 didn't read this, but this is also harkening back to the more recent that is actually still going on. That I think about it, Avengers Beyond, because in that book, you have a former potential future antagonist kind of coming to ask the Avengers for help. And as I recall from the last book, the Avengers are none too pleased with this person because of something they did. I suspect the same thing is going to happen with this person in a different way, because by nature of who this person is, you can't help it. But we'll see if all that bears out. So, and how long, whether this is going to be a 6-issue arc or just going to continue. I mean, well, we know some of this stuff is going to continue past the arc, but they made that, I feel like, made that fairly clear with some things in this issue. But yeah, it's a fairly interesting start for this Avengers book, and we'll see where it goes. And I believe we had one more book we said we're going to hit before the Rapids.
Sure. I think we settled on Titans #2. Yes, we did, in fact, pick a DC book. So Titans #2 is written by Tom Taylor, with art by Nicola Scott, colors by Annette Kwok, and letters by Wes Abbott. So what's funny about this is that Tom Taylor is writing both the regular Titans book and the current Nightwing book. And while it feels like you would, I guess, presume that there would be much more of a crossover, there really isn't, right? And this week's issue of Nightwing was pretty special, and I'll get to that when I do Rapid Fire. But in this Titans issue, it's interesting, the dynamic that it seems Taylor's trying to set up. And interestingly, it's a dynamic that forces me to recognize that a lot has happened since I was really reading Titans. And I think that the most recent run of Teen Titans, I think it was it Teen Titans before they relaunched it as Titans?
Yes, probably
it was, right?
Yeah, there was. I do remember there was a Teen Titans book out before they relaunched.
Right, and there was a Teen Titans Academy stuff too, right? Which essentially brought the.
Yeah, you might actually be thinking of Teen Titans, because that was the one that was actually right before the relaunch.
Right, the Academy one, right?
And then there was a Teen Titans before that.
Right. No, I'm thinking of the Academy one because the Academy one is the title that reassembled the Wolfman Perez Titans, basically, and brought in that group of characters and that group of young heroes, to bring on as fledgling heroes, and unfortunately to sometimes be like kind of sacrificial lambs to a certain extent. And I would say that what we find here is, as I said, what I was kind of driving at is there are certain dynamics between the characters that are revisited here that I was not familiar with. And I'll get into that in a second. We initially start this issue off with a flashback that's a kind of a retcon. I'm like, when did this happen?
I mean, yeah, there is that, but also I could see it happening.
Right. I'm like, when did this happen? There's a sequence here of Nightwing doing Batman things.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Some unfortunate time travel.
Hang on, let me kind of correct you just a bit for that. He's not actually doing the Batman things, he to a point, but actually talking about Batman things he could do.
Well, it's a bit of both.
Right.
It's a bit of, because he's doing Batman things in that he's explaining all of his findings. Right. But also Batman things like, brother, I like Batman things.
Mm-hmm. Things that got him in trouble.
That's a spoiler, right? That's a spoiler without spoiling, right?
Right.
So, I guess, before I hand it off to Roddykat, I guess the dynamic I was thinking of is something that is an old dynamic that apparently, I think it's because of the recent stories that put Coriander, aka Starfire, into more of a leadership role, and there's a bit of a question during the story about who gets to take on like the field leader role, because we know that Nightwing, the former Robin, was the kind of unquestioned leader of the Titans and the Teen Titans from Jump, and another character, namely Donna Troy, is put into the role of field leader for a particular away mission, and I'm like, wait, that's kind of the way it always was back in the day.
Right.
So like I said, I needed to kind of recall and remember that Starfire has been given a bit of an upgrade in terms of her characterization, or at least, she's evolved to the point where, she was, if I'm not mistaken, like leading the Titans during that whole academy business.
Right. She was basically like head mistress or whatever the case may be then, but also I think in the iteration before that, she was also leading whatever team.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, and I like the way they handled that part, because because I don't recognize the Donna Troy from the past stuff. Like, yeah, I've read some Teen Titans back in the day, or New Titans, but not enough to get to that point to know, how anything past Robin being the leader was the case, and certain dynamics between a couple of the members of the team. So the Donna Troy thing, I wasn't really that assured of. So I was like, okay, they're just doing something new, but the way they handled it in this was like, no, it's totally fine. We ain't got time for all of that. So like you just said, just kind of put it back the way it was for that. For this time, like, who's to say that's not going to change in next issue? Because maybe they're going to be a different leader for the team for the different missions, from the way it sounds.
Right. They might be configured differently, during the various away missions.
Right.
I did like that they made use of the upgrades, the recent upgrades from like the New 52 going forward, the upgrades that Cyborg has received.
Mm-hmm.
Right, Cyborg is, with the apocalypse tech, he's a very different character now. I'm just not used to seeing it. I've been reading it for years now, since New 52. It's still weird to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, we'll talk more about Mr. Stone in a little bit, but yeah.
Oh, I was about to say, he has a mini series out now, right?
Actually, I think it's ongoing.
Is it ongoing? Okay,
I
good.
believe so.
Good for him.
Yeah. I mean, depending on how it does, obviously that could change, but as far as I can tell now, it's an ongoing.
Good for him. That's right. I did see that on the list of comics out this week. So
yeah. So because that whole Dawn of DC stuff, they're giving books to a whole bunch of people, so a whole bunch of folks. I'm surprised Beast Boy don't have one.
Right. What did you think of the ending?
I wasn't surprised by it. Like, as I said in my notes, it's like, yeah, something from the first issue that I knew was going to come back up happened. I thought, although it happened faster than I thought it would happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't surprised by that, none. Especially when they had just so happened to bring it up in the middle of this issue. I was like, yeah, okay, well, I guess that's going to come back up at some point. And sure enough, now I guess what we don't know is to the extent of what's going on with that is the thing, but it feels like something that has probably happened before. Like, I know there's been stories like that where I'm not going to get into what actually happens, but stories like this have happened before, and I suspect there's going to be a little brushing up against before the shoe actually drops, put it that way.
Right.
So we just have to wait it out and see what happens with this particular version of that story. So what about you?
I mean, I kind of got a chuckle out of it. I was like, oh, interesting. That's an interesting play, like for this character to take, because that character to me has never really played that big a role in Titan stories.
Right.
For me. Right. Because he really wasn't part of the Titans when I was an active fan and an active reader. And I know he, made appearances afterwards, but it wasn't during my run of reading the book. So
Right. And I guess technically got probably a little bit more shine in Young Justice
right.
than not. So, but yeah, you're right. I agree with you on all of that. Yeah, and I guess all it was like, yeah, okay, sure, why not? It was because that character also, like, just like you, was like, yeah, it's not a sure, whatever. We'll see. That was my whole thing with that whole ending thing.
Right.
But now there's another part of this, however, that not necessarily glossed over, that kind of comes up in the beginning of the book, having to do with one of the members and their life status.
Right, coming off the cliffhanger at the end of the first issue.
Right, but we the first issue kind of pretty much laid that down, but also it was still weird to see, what happens with that in this. So I was like, well, Clay, so I guess we got a time frame coming on, so they're setting up something that's going to come at some point. Clearly, but at the same time, it's like, okay, so is that a done deal with this, or what was very clear is setting up is something they're going to revisit at some time, probably after this first arc, which seems to be the case.
Yep.
Yeah, it was still weird. I'm like, stop messing with time. Goddamn speedsters, chill.
Yeah, seriously. You know what's funny, and we'll, just as we kind of transition into our, I guess either our last book or rapid fire, I guess that super speed power, when taken to the extreme, the way DC does, it's not Quicksilver level. It's not even, it's not even like Silver Surfer level. Right? Because some of the fastest characters in Marvel don't do that.
Right. Has never changed the whole timelines. Right.
Right. Just don't do that. That's just something that DC decided to just use. And obviously, it was once a strictly a once in a while thing where they used a particular apparatus, a treadmill, as it were. Right. But, I guess it's just a trope now. It's a trope that they use often with these speedsters in the DC universe.
Yeah, convenience. Just whatever. We'll just do this because it's convenient.
Yeah,
which I know people have had issues with in the past and probably currently. I don't know, but it's like, all right, it's comics. What are you going to do? But also, you can still fault the comics for such.
Yeah, exactly. It's the comics and the writers. I'm just like, no, stop.
Right, because it seems, on one hand, it seems lazy.
Yeah.
So, and other times, like, all right, well, if it comes out and ends up being something good with it, then I guess it's acceptable, but it's still kind of lazy.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. That being said, I don't know. Did you want to do that last book, or we'll go ahead and go into rapid? Because that one was pretty.
No, we can go into rapid fire.
Okay.
I'll spin it.
Hit it.
I ain't got time to bleed.
All right. I will lead things off with an IDW book, Godzilla, Here There Be Dragons, #1. It's written by Frank Thierry with art by Inaki Miranda, colors by Ava De La Cruz, and letters by Nathan Widdick. I talked to Roddykat about why I read this book during the pre-production meeting to this show. Interestingly, I knew what I read the solicitation before I read the book. And interestingly, it plays with canon. It plays with a bit of a retcon, because we all know that Godzilla was created, quote unquote, in his current incarnation as a fire-breathing monster, or a radiation-breathing monster, in the wake of nuclear testing in World War, like post-World War II, right? This story has a setting far earlier than that. Far, far, far earlier than that. Think about like Jack Sparrow time if you're a pirate person, right? Pirates of the Caribbean person. And that's essentially the setting that we find ourselves in here. And it's just, it's kind of like an interesting play on what we know to be Godzilla's story. But right now it's still kind of like a tale that's still left to be unfurled, as it were. It's kind of being told as a tall tale, and that's kind of an interesting storytelling device that Thierry is putting in. Next up is Nightwing number 105. It's written, as I said earlier, by Tom Taylor, with art by Bruno Redondo, colors by Adriano Lucas, and letters by Wes Abbott. So if you're not reading Nightwing, I think you should. Nightwing has been very entertaining for many months now since Tom Taylor took the book over, if not years. This issue has an interesting, I guess, quirk, because it is drawn from the perspective of Nightwing's eyes. So when you're reading it, you're looking at things as Nightwing would see them. So everything is drawn and written, obviously, but drawn from the point of view of Nightwing, so that when you're looking out, you see things as if it was a first-person shooter. And it is pretty inventive. We do get a little bit of development in terms of the new Heartless character. So we find out more of that. We get more of that character in this issue, and obviously it's fun to see Dick Grayson, aka Nightwing, kind of running around in a different Bloodhaven, a brighter Bloodhaven, but still the Bloodhaven that you might be familiar with. So it's a lot of fun. I recommend it. Next up is the last book that Roddykat and I have in common. So he's going to chime in with anything, with any of his own thoughts on this, and that is Guardians of the Galaxy number 3. It's written by Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing, former guests of the Comic Book Chronicles, with art by Kev Walker, colors by Matt Hollingsworth, and letters by VC's Corey Petit. This issue is an interesting third issue, because I had to read the second issue just prior to this so I could get caught up. And the second issue I thought was more memorable in how it treated members of the Guardians. This third issue brings back a concept, not necessarily characters, but a concept that had not been explored in a while, and that is the Spartoi, or the Spartax, the people of Spartax, the home planet of Jason of Spartax, the father of Peter Quill, and at least in the comics. Remember, this is comics, folks. And where we go from there, and some of the developments on this Grootfall storyline that are kind of more explored in this issue than in the second issue of this so far 3-issue old story. So I will hand it off to Roddykat with his thoughts on this book.
So yeah, for a couple of things, especially mentioning the Spartak, I totally forgot that Peter had a sister, like not MCU sister, but
right,
an actual comic book sister. And I had to kind of go back and check that. Oh right, not that person. I remember, because that even still is kind of a later addition to his canon, because that was like, according to what I read, 2014.
I totally forgot that. I was just like, oh yeah. I mean, I didn't really look into it, but like, oh yeah, I kind of remember.
Right, I did. I thought they were. At first, I thought it was something. I was like, no, they're just doing that because they're MCU-fying this. I was like, oh no, that was a thing that they that was the thing they put in the comics a few years ago. Mm-hmm. So, which, to be fair, 2014 still around the still the Guardians thing. There was still some sort of MCU-ification then. You can probably point to. But that being said, like I just said, we do get a little bit more on the Grootfall situation, and slowly bringing it to what the hell happened, because we still don't know, but they're just kind of, popping little pieces here and there to just kind of bring this. just to kind of bring that up to speed a little bit more. As we joked before the show, they're not doing a Zeb Wells and making us wait 26, 27 issues to find out what's going on. I suspect at the end, by the end of this arc, we'll probably know what happened, if not the resolution to what's going on. So, and because obviously they probably want to do a little bit more character stuff going into this, because there's someone else that's going to come in the fold in the next issue. So, still pretty interesting reading. Like I said, where they're going to this is going to be the key thing. How they're getting there so far, it's been all right so far. Is what I can say.
Yeah. Alrighty, and last for me is Incredible Hulk #1. It's written by Philip Kennedy Johnson, with art by Nick Klein, colors by Matthew Wilson, and letters by VC's Corey Petit. This is an interesting read because it plays off of not the most recent Incredible Hulk run, but the more celebrated run before it, written by Al Ewing, because it has horror stuff and plays off of the Green Door stuff. So if you like that stuff, you may want to at least read this and the backup story that was in the Incredible Hulk annual prior to this.
Oh,
so
right. I forgot about that.
Right. So this is an interesting first issue for sure. And it is, as I said, much more in the vein of Immortal Hulk than what we've been reading about the Hulk recently. But it does take into effect that story. It does, acknowledge that stuff happened. And this is also a continuation of the story of Bruce Banner post that run. The whole Spaceship Hulk.
Right. Which I think I fell off of that.
Yeah, same here. I was just waiting for it to end at that point, but ultimately, that's it for me, and I'll hand it off to Roddykat.
All right, as we go from this Jim Chung Hulk cover, I'm actually kind of curious as to read that Hulk book, because I did read the kind of flavor text on it. I was like, interesting. And Philip Kennedy Johnson's been doing some interesting work here and there.
It's interesting. It's interesting, like I said, because it harkens back to the early Immortal Hulk stuff. I would recommend it.
Gotcha. Yeah, we definitely like that stuff. All right. So for myself, we got Batman Superman World's Finest #16, written by Mark Waid, with art by Dan Mora, colors by Tamara Bonvillain, and letters by Steve Wands. So, stop me if you heard this, folks. AI's taking over. You hadn't stopped me yet, because you know what's actually happened. Nevertheless, Mark Waid has decided to just go ahead and write it through this book, because there's been a kind of a robot revolution in a way, but it's actually in service of this new Amazo robot that is kind of gotten the better of its creator, and decided to just go full, I would say full Skynet, but they're not to that point yet. But definitely there's a takeover being done. So the heroes kind of are on alert. Batman and Superman's being captured, along with a couple of heroes in their human guise, and they're of course the creators of this new Amazo robot and some other robots in the DC universe. So there's a whole thing going on here, but it ends up being a whole hero party, but also being, hey, this is a game of chess going on. It seems with our team and this new Mazo robot that's going on. So it's been cool. I've been liking it. There's even a Plastic Man shows up, so Mark Waid has been doing nothing else but pulling folks out of the basket left and right, which is kind of funny. So it's just a matter of who shows up when, why. So, anywho, good so far. Cyborg number 2. Trying to see if actually. Oh, okay. Agent 70 was right. It is a miniseries. Huh. I'm looking at the thing now. That's weird.
How many issues?
6.
There you go.
So it is 2 of 6. Written by Morgan Hampton, art by Tom Rainey and Valentine Delandro, colors by Michael Atiyeh, excuse me, and letters by Rob Lee. Last issue, Cyborg's dad died. Silas Stone. You've seen him in the movie. Also played by, speaking of Terminator, played by wow, why am I blanking his name now? Crap. I just had his name on my list. It doesn't matter, but his dad died, but he's still around because there is this new company called Silas, who, amongst other things, has been working with Silas Stone on some things, and that includes delivery robots, delivery cyborgs and whatnot, and they're basically trying to do a lot as Cyborg saying, replace human jobs with robot jobs, and they are trying to come on this altruistic. No, we're just trying to better humanity and this and that and the other. But out of this becomes, like I said, an android that has been imprinted with Silas Stone's memories, which obviously Vic Stone, who has already had issues with his dad before he died, kind of sort of was still trying to deal with, now has to deal with this this thing that is around. In this book there is a fake Twitter that gets reference from this, I would say, an influencer that's basically talking about what's going on, including Cyborg and whatnot. Yeah, you've seen the type I've talked about if I tell you about it, but I don't necessarily have to. All I have to do is say influencer, and they're speaking on things, whether or not. But the fake Twitter in this thing is weirdly annoying and accurate, and that part bothers me. That part kind of bothers me because it kind of comes up as a quote unquote news thing, but it's like, it's a part of the story. Also, there's a Cyborg's back in Detroit, and I keep forgetting there's a Justice League Detroit, but that gets referenced in this issue, and maybe even a TV cop dad shows up, in a way, and that part was kind of like, all right, we see what you're doing here. You know what? Go for it. Nonetheless, we have young Vic Stone Cyborg, trying to do his thing in Detroit as he's back, and now has to continue to deal with issues that he thought he's dealt with, and also public scrutiny. So we'll see how all of that works out. Next up is Black Adam number 12 of 12. This, as I can definitely say, is the case. Script by Christopher Priest, pencils by Eber Ferreira, colors by Matt Herms, letters by Willie Schubert, not Sherbert, although I could use some Sherbert right about now. So, in this last issue, we have the possessed body of Black Adam to deal with. Malik, who I can't remember what his superhero's name is going by, but Malik has to deal with the help of let's just say the astral form of Teth Adam. That all kind of gets resolved, leaving Teth Adam to go his own way for a little while, seemingly. But also Black Adam still around in another. And I'm not sure where that's going to go from here, but apparently that is a thing now. What we didn't necessarily get is whether Malik, this new hero that Malik is calling himself, I don't know if he's not calling himself White Adam, because he already made talk about that, whether what he's going to be doing after this. Obviously he's probably, well, obviously, or maybe not obviously, he's going to show up somewhere else. Maybe if someone decides to use him. But this, the last issue didn't necessarily do a whole lot to, to kind of poke at that. So maybe we'll see him, maybe we won't. Otherwise, that interesting end to this book. Shocking. I don't know if I would say that, but his Black Adam and lightning powers, haha, So, but it is definitely something that I wasn't expecting to happen in the ending of this book. Next up, though, we have Scarlet Witch Annual #1. There we go. Written by Steve Orlando, art by Carlos Nieto, color artist Triona Farrell, and letters by VC's Corey Pettit. So, a couple of things to note is that this issue, this annual, is pretty much kicking off another story that's going to go through a few other annuals, as I've come to find out. I believe it is called the Contest of Chaos. Is what it's going to be. Is the subtitle of all these are going to be, and this is where it kicks off. So, folks who may know of the WandaVision story may be not surprised by the fact that Wanda's mentor is still around. She has gotten progressively younger. One would say almost kind of too young to the point of where she was would be in WandaVision, let's just say, because we do know Agatha Harkness is going to have a MCU show. And even younger as she had gotten in Scarlet Witch's last volume, which was granted a couple of years ago at this young. Even Wanda kind of points it out at this. So that's what's kind of funny. But the crux of this story is Agatha Harkness going to see Wanda because she's kind of worried about her, or at least under the guise of worrying about her because of everything that she's taken on, including, apparently, I don't remember when this happening, she basically sealed up the Darkhold within, and Shaitan within herself, in her soul. And there are people there are beings who are wanting to come after her for that. And Agatha, on one side of it, has been basically running interference between Wanda and these people. But also at the same time, she's kind of like worried for Wanda because, with everything that Wanda has already been through, if you know anything of Wanda's history, that's a lot in addition to this. So this whole thing kind of gets dealt with. But it was also in service of basically queuing up that Agatha All Along song because there's some machinations going on for her that, again, is leading into this Contest of Chaos story that is going to next show up in the Spider-Man annual, if I remember correctly, and it's going to go through a few annuals if the back of the book is to be believed. And there is a checklist of all the books that it's going to this stuff is going to hit. And actually, if you bear with me a second, I'm going to refer very, very quickly to some of the books that's going to that is going to involve. And they've been doing this stuff a whole lot lately, almost annoyingly. But yeah, so continues in August with Spider-Man Annual, Iron Man, Fantastic Four, Moon Knight, Spider-Gwen, Spider-Gwen, Venom, X-Men, and the annual and the Avengers Annual. And all of them have basically matchups, almost Contest of Champions style. So, in other words, the Spider-Man Annual says Spider-Man versus Wolverine. The Iron Man Annual says Iron Man versus Storm, and it goes on from there. I won't go through all of that. So, yeah, this is basically setting up a thing with another set of connected one-shots / annuals. And, of course, I will be reading those because I am a sucker for things like Contest of Champion. And curious as to what this whole thing is going to be about, that in a way that I probably shouldn't be. But yeah, there is that. My last book is I Am Iron Man. And that's number 4. a 5 actually, because this is the penultimate issue of the Walk Down Memory Lane for Iron Man, and it is been written by Murewa Ayodele, art by Dotun Akande, letters by VC's Joe Caramagna. Here we find ourselves during the time of Tony Stark, director of S.H.I.E.L.D., if you remember that time frame. But we also get a lunch with the facial hair bros, if you remember that concept coming up. And it's even kind of referenced there in the story. But basically the story is, hey, Tony Stark's seeing things that no one else can see, so he calls on Doctor Strange to kind of help them. And then from there, it kind of goes into a whole thing with Tony and S.H.I.E.L.D. and with Doctor Strange only coming in, one part or another. So also, there's a couple of things of side note of this that was kind of amusing to this. Doctor Strange knew and possibly dated one of Tony's exes around this time, because that got referenced in a particular bondage kink, or an unexplored bondage kink. And I was like, wait, Emma? And that's a thing we're going to talk about later, but I don't think that's what we're talking about. But also another thing, Doctor Strange was like, hey, you made armor to fight your friends, such as the Incredible Hulk and whatnot, but Thanos has come here a bunch of times, and you've not made one Thanos Buster armor yet. So what's the deal with that? Which also kind of comes into play into something later on that someone is none too happy about, or basically none too happy with Tony at around this time, that I barely remember anything about. But it was interesting read nonetheless. So got one more issue of this to go, and yeah, we'll see what it all bears out into. And that is it for myself. Clicks of the week.
Clicks of the week.
I don't think the fella said anything actually.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No, they did not. So it's just us. Cool. You got yours?
Hey, there are weeks like that, folks. There are weeks like that.
Yep, happens more often than not. So people are busy. Or what have you. But do you have yours? Because
I think I do.
Okay.
I think I do.
What you
right? So it was nice to see, kind of a little walk down memory lane, as you said, with Ultimate Invasion #1, and to see, the setup. But I think the second issue, because it's only 4 issues, we're going to see things happen in the next issue,
right?
Like quick. So I think this issue was mostly set up. Incredible Hulk #1 under the direction of Philip Kennedy Johnson was good. I'm willing to see how, where it goes from here.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the issue I enjoyed reading the most, and this is not that big a surprise, because I have been enjoying this run by Tom Taylor on Nightwing. So I will go with Nightwing #105. And again, the conceit, the concept here is seeing this issue through Nightwing's eyes, and I think they pull it off very well.
Right. Yeah, you said the whole first person thing, and it was like, it just reminded me of the 1 or 2 movies they've done in actual first person movie that I don't think I've actually ever seen, but have been curious about seeing. And so doing a book in first person, like, yeah, sure, not that not that big of a stretch. It probably can be better laid down than some of those movies could be, but it was also curious to see this, but I hadn't read it yet, so I might have to actually check this out. As I'm writing that down, I think I am probably here. Let's see. There's and Batman Superman was all right. Ultimate Invasion was interesting, but as Agent 70 said, got to see what that second issue is gonna bring us. The first part of that Iron Man before it got kind of weird was of interest, but I'm thinking, there's a part of Avengers 2 that I say in my that I mentioned in my notes from the beginning of it. It was like, Hydra's still around,
Ah,
But also, it was like apparently they forgot that the Avengers was still around, also, or at specifically one particular adventure, the way things happened. So not only I guess they're still around, but they've relegated to they've been relegated. Well, they've been technically relegated to beginning arc status. So that's not totally unheard of. But the book I'm going to go with in this particular case, and I did skim through Edge of Spider-Verse. I will actually very quickly say that if you are interested in any more about that Spider-Boy character, yeah, you might want to check that out. Because well, from skimming of it, it looked like it was going to go into the origin of the character, but not necessarily. But there is definitely, the first story is his, and the second story has to do with a version of Miles Morales' sister that we saw from Saladin Ahmed's run. That was in a different universe. That was a universe without Miles specifically. So we see a little bit more with that character, what that character had gotten into, and that was seemed to be a fairly interesting story once I go back and actually read it properly. But like I said, not to belabor the point too much longer, Scarlet Witch Annual #1 is going to be my click of the week. But yeah, I was like, this is going somewhere, and we know at least some part of it is going to have some MCU implications, and maybe they're setting some of that up here. Who's to say? It kind of seems like it, though. And with that, folks, we have done Clicks of the Week. Let's get one ad read in.
our first ad read of the night is for Wink, the personalized wine club. Wink is a world of wine delivered right to your door. From rosé to Cabernet to Torronté, Wink has over 100 styles of wine to discover. Ever try an orange wine? Wink connects you to a world of exclusive wines tailored to your taste and delivered directly to your door. Wink delivers 4 bottles of wine to you every month with free shipping. You can pick your own bottles or let Wink choose and match to your taste. It doesn't cost a thing to become a member, and you can skip or cancel anytime. Now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy an exclusive discount of $20 off your first order. To place your first order with $20 off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us/wink. That's cspn.us/WINC. Wink Wines through CSPN. Do it today. Now we get into the news.
Dun 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 dun. Cinematic news is coming. Okay, no, we're not doing that. The Flash starred.
You got it in my head now, dang it.
It doesn't take long. The Flash star teases DCU return, and we're not talking about that criminal. We're talking about Sasha Calle. I guess that's her name. My apologies if I butchered it. But she was talking on Entertainment Tonight about her character, Kara Zor-El, aka Supergirl. And let's see, it says here, quote, I love her so much and I feel her very deeply. I think this movie was a runway to a better story for her. I guess that's putting it out into the universe as, you know, hey, give Supergirl a movie. I mean, I've heard good things about Tom Taylor's Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow book, so things can happen. And I can't remember if that was anything that was actually said in what James Gunn had already put out that was coming, so I suspect not. But anyway, this article also says, I just want to dive deeper into Kara and her feelings and into her day-to-day. I would just love to see her in regular clothes and human clothes. As a fan, the whole time I was filming, I kept thinking, what would she wear? What glasses would she wear? I was about to say there's a version of Supergirl that I may have answered that question previously to this, but, you know, hey, it's a new take, a new thing. Age of 70, how was her portrayal, by the way?
Short.
That sounds about right. Okay.
I mean, honestly, it was different, right? But then I don't have that much to compare it to. There's Helen Slater, and then there's the CW, who's the actress.
Benoist.
Oh yeah, Benoist, right?
Yeah.
Or Benoist. I didn't watch her portrayal that often.
Right.
So it's like it's hard to say what's different. But I would have seen I would be curious to see where they take it. It's a little it's definitely an interesting portrayal, but it's what it is. It's okay. It's short, like I said. There's not
Right.
like it's hard to really like say whether or not you'd be really interested in seeing more of it, like on a movie level.
Sounds like they didn't give a whole lot.
No, not really.
Yeah. Like I said, that sounds about right. Anywho, next up.
A live-action adaptation of Batman Beyond, starring Michael Keaton as Bruce Wayne Batman, would have been in the cards if The Flash had been successful at the box office, but it wasn't. So basically, Kevin Smith of Clerks fame overheard these potential plans, and bottom line is that's probably that had been rumored for a while, is that Keaton was going to do something future Batman related, and guess what, folks? Probably not going to happen because The Flash just did not do well because it wasn't that good.
I'm actually looking to see if Clerks 3 actually came out, and I guess it did. Yeah,
it did. I haven't gotten around to seeing it.
Well, it looks like it's going to be on. It's already on Stars as of this month, or coming soon if it's not already. So interesting. Anyway, I haven't seen it either. I was kind of curious. Blue Beetle director clarifies the film's place in James Gunn's DCU. So we already talked about what James Gunn thought about Blue Beetle's place in this, and the director Angel Manuel Soto pretty much is along with that. Or his clarifications pretty much go along with what Gunn said. The quote here is, "We are part of the universe, we are part of the world, we are part of the plans that they have been creating for the future installments of the DCU. But we're not tied to all of the films of the past. Yes, our movie lives in a world where superheroes exist, but that doesn't mean that a certain event or a certain alliance or certain thing from the past dictates where our film is going." So technically, yeah, he's the first one of this new slate. But I guess the rest of them are around somewhere, if you can intuit from that. Next up.
Now that Gal Gadot is not attached to Wonder Woman 3, the actor has said it feels liberating to be able to pursue other projects. And in a recent interview in support of Gal Gadot's Heart of Stone, the Wonder Woman actor said she now feels empowered to no longer be attached to the growing universe currently in development at DC Studios. Good for her.
Yeah, it's kind of sad because she wasn't a bad Wonder Woman. So, I mean, she kept the lineage up quite nicely, I would say.
Yeah.
It just wasn't really the movie itself. The last movie, particularly, itself didn't really do him wonders. No pun intended. Ew. Oh, wait. Did I skip one? Oh, I did not. Tiny Toons Luniversity announces fall release date. They're still tiny, they're still toony, and now they're going to a Luniversity apparently. Which actually reminds me of something I was going to say about the Teen Titans Academy, because that is a story that was lifted from a fairly recent Marvel thing that we liked around here. So, but according to this article, Tiny Toons Luniversity serves as a reboot of the 1990 animated series. And yada yada. Do we get a specific date outside of September? No, we do not. But it'll be releasing on Max and Cartoon Network beginning this September. So more Tiny Toons, yay. Next up.
So not in Acme Acres, Super Friends, the famous Hanna-Barbera cartoon based on DC's Justice League, has been removed from Max. The very first Justice League cartoon disappeared from the streaming service 2 years, basically, after being added to HBO Max on June 18th, 2021. Super Friends is the latest of many shows to get cut from Max ever since Warner Brothers Discovery began shrinking the platform's content library late last year. It's not known whether Super Friends or other cut Max content will ever move to another streaming service. But there are still some DC cartoons like Batman the Animated Series and Justice League Unlimited still on Max right now.
We talked about this prior to the show, and there's reasons upon reasons. None of them are great, and none of them are logical, but it is what it is. And as Agent 70 said before the show, like, yeah, it's kind of one of the things, like, if you want the stuff, you're going to have to get it physical, because nothing is promised, even from the people who own the properties on these streaming services, which is kind of a bummer, but it kind of is what it is. It sucks. I almost didn't put this in here, but I kind of kept seeing this a little bit more, but I figured it's good to touch on. So there's rumors, and very much stress the fact that there are rumors that the MCU might get a Nomad series. Possibly bringing back Chris Evans, but not definitely, but also possibly bringing back Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow, according to this article, for a multiversal mission. So, considering the states of where both of those folks are in relation to the MCU, like, it would have to be something like that. If that is going to be the case. But yeah, so, and the only reason why I brought this up is because, one, there have been Scarlett Johansson kind of been out there talking, not just for that Transformers stuff, but for this Nomad series potentially coming, and I think she still has a project, an MCU project that she still may be working out with Feige, and that's where these rumors are kind of leading up to. And then there's also that talk about the on the side note of Tom Cruise wants to work with her and vice versa. As he's been talking about Mission Impossible, he was like, "Oh yeah, she's enormously talented," and da da da. And I'm like, "What else are you looking at?" Because that's something about that don't sound right. But that's just me. Like, this is Tom Cruise. We don't know. Like, Anyway, but yeah. So yeah, possibly a Nomad series starring Scarlett Johansson. Maybe this project that she's still doing with the MCU. We don't know. Again, all of this is continuously rumor. Next up,
Secret Invasion actually had an AI-driven opening credit scene. Not scene, but like opening credits graphic, basically, sequence. And apparently it did not result in any artists, not benefiting or, not working, according to the visual effects studio responsible for producing the opening credits. So Method Studios insisted that the show's credits sequence, which employs animated artwork produced using AI, did not put any flesh and blood creatives out of work. In a statement supplied to the Hollywood Reporter, basically saying that AI was a tool that the animators and artists used. So take that for what take that with a grain of salt, I would say.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't believe it, and yeah, that's just whatever.
I mean, 5 would get you 10 if they didn't use it. They probably would have needed a few more people, but they probably are not lying by saying that, yeah, they had animators and artists use AI, but guess what? That's a step or two that they're skipping.
Right. So I think I saw Dan Slott earlier talking about, they would do a nice service if they just replace that next episode credit sequence with one done by real artists. Would do a lot to help their case, but we'll see. I doubt that very seriously. They'll probably just cut this.
Turn around in that short a time.
Well, yeah, I guess his thing was saying was like maybe hopefully that this was a one-off, and the rest of them went to a more artist created. But yeah, like you said, exactly. At most, they probably are going to cut this sequence down a little bit, but it's still going to be this sequence.
Right.
So, sad, but here we are, folks. Disney Plus confirms Secret Invasion's place in the MCU timeline. And it takes place after Quantumania. Yes. And it says, which also came less than a year after. So it's after She-Hulk and after Quantumania. From what the gist of it. So, which, sure, that kind of bears out because, you know, I didn't think it was going to be that much different or off, you know?
Yeah, right?
So, next up.
So in unfortunate news, folks, this week we got the first trailer for Sony Pictures' Kraven the Hunter. And we got to see Aaron Taylor Johnson's take on Kraven. And we also got to see that he's not the only Spider-Man villain in the trailer. What we did, in fact, see is a very different take on another Spider-Man villain, namely the Rhino.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, if you can sit through the whole trailer, you get to the end, and that's where the Rhino stuff starts to be shown. Make it through the whole thing.
Yeah, but don't worry. It's not the Rhino from Amazing 2.
Right.
So you don't have to worry about what's his face's bad accent and that whole machinery thing. Yeah, I still haven't watched this the trailer. And yeah, don't care to. Sony and Marvel announced 2 new Spider-Man universe movie release dates. So it says here that the November 8 to 2024 is going to have one untitled Sony Marvel movie. We don't have a name for it. But also a second untitled Sony Marvel live action movie is dated for June 27, 2025. According to the article, no idea which either one of them are, and there's speculations of what they could be. And it may or may not have something to do with the next story, which is...
In rare Sony-related good news, Bad Bunny's Spider-Man spin-off El Muerto has been removed from the Sony movie release calendar, and we won't be seeing that anytime soon. It was originally scheduled for January 12th, 2024, which is not all that far away. Apparently, it is still in development, but the current writer's strike and Bad Bunny's busy touring schedule have impacted the movie's timeline. So we will see if and when this ever gets off the ground.
Or hopefully never. But, you know what? 8 to 70. Take this next one, please.
So, Peter Parker voice actor Josh Keaton from Spectacular Spider-Man just revealed what a third season and more of the animated series would have contained if it had been allowed to continue into the future. So it was, canceled over a decade ago in 2009. It has lived on ever since for fans who adored it like me. So thanks to an appearance, minor spoiler alert, in Across the Spider-Verse, that dedication paid off. So let's see. Now I got to actually open the article because I was looking at the summary that we have because that covers. All right. So he was talking on a TikTok live stream, and he basically confirmed that one future season would have been a year from Peter Parker's life in high school, and the 5th and final season would have followed him graduating. Okay.
Yeah. Maybe this will see the light. I don't know. Weissman's out there doing some stuff, but whether this will happen again, basically because of where that thing happened and subsequently was killed off, probably not.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Listen, Spectacular is an adaptation like every animated and live action depiction of Spider-Man. This is not like comic book canon, but I like the show's overall tone. You don't have to be a big fan of animation to just appreciate that it's okay animation. It's not like world-beating animation from 2009, but it's just a lot of fun I really enjoyed the depiction of both Gwen and Mary Jane in the series. They are a lot of fun, and they have a lot of depth to their characters.
Yep. If anything, the show was a victim of bad timing, which you wouldn't have known that at the time, and no one knew that at the time. But what was well, some people knew, but that's beside the point. But it was just a victim of bad timing. So.
Yes. The victim of Marvel basically reacquiring the animated right, the characters' licensing rights.
Yeah, and being bought by Disney. So, speaking of Marvel, Marvel's Namor actor drops out of next movie amid sexual assault allegations. Tenoch Huerta has exited his next movie, which I think was something on Netflix. Following said allegations of Mexican saxophonist and activist, but for his side, he says that the things are false and completely unsubstantiated, and I think he's lawyered up from whatever. But yeah, will we see Namor anymore, or this him as Namor in the future? Probably not, or probably so. We don't know. But you know how things
we don't know.
Going. Yeah, we don't know.
We'll have to see how that plays out.
Exactly, but the way things have been going for Marvel adjacent actors who've had some assault and troubles, probably not.
Yeah,
as opposed to other criminals from the distinguished competition. Next up.
In better news, John Wick Chapter 4 is getting a director's cut, which extends the longest movie in the Keanu Reeves franchise even longer.
Pretty much.
So the fourth entry clocked in at a total of 2 hours and 49 minutes, including credits. I have not rewatched it, even though I do now own it in DVD, Blu-ray, and digital formats. But now an even lengthier version is right around the corner. Chad Stahelski, the director, recently confirmed a comic book movie. He has almost finished work on the extended director's cut. What are you doing to me, Stahelski? You're making me buy it again.
That being said, if you don't want to wait for the director's cut, the Blu-rays out there with said digital and DVD for $20 at this point on Amazon.
Yeah, I have it. So apparently, actually no, it doesn't have a rumored. Oh, okay, wait, it does say so. There's about another 10 to 15 minutes they put back in. Oh my god,
right?
That's crazy, yo.
But I would imagine
that's literally a 3-hour movie.
Right. I would imagine though you probably got it in deleted scenes if it's the same stuff.
Yeah, I haven't looked at. Like I said, I haven't really explored. I haven't had a chance to explore it yet. Right. I just enjoy having it and seeing it in my my library. I'm like, oh look, I have all 4.
Sure. Anime Corner.
Anime Corner. Oh, sorry, I am on the wrong sound effect page. I'm getting all the haiku in.
As he tends to do. Shin Kamen Rider kicks its way onto Amazon Prime worldwide on July 21st. Some have called it Barbie Day also, because I believe that's the same day that the Barbie movie comes out. But, so yeah, after concluding its Japanese theatrical run on June 4th, Shin Kamen Rider announced today that, like I said, it's going to hit Amazon Prime Video on July 21st. Not just in Japan, but over 200 companies. We can very much assume that the U.S. is one of those 200 companies. Which is cool because I kind of wanted to check this movie out. So it's a reimagining. If you do not know of the original Kamen Rider, if you are aware of that story, but yeah, you can check that out then when it happens. Next up.
So the best new Gundam project is taking forever to complete. Mobile Suit Gundam Hathaway's sequel is still far from releasing in theaters, but time may be on its side when it comes to the franchise's popularity. So this was only one entry of Mobile Suit Gundam Hathaway has been released so far, And basically, the opinion of this writer is that it's going to give Gundam a whole new audience in the process of waiting for the next release.
Some would argue that Witch from Mercury is already doing that, and it might be a better Gundam new project, a new Gundam project that does that. So, yeah, I have a beef with Hathaway for a reason which we don't necessarily want to get into, but I don't think I've also seen that first one. So, oh wait, actually, maybe I did. I don't remember. Regardless, yeah, that's the thing. Demon Slayer season 3 makes massive change to Nezuko. The
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
Well, I'm not going to go into what actually happens, but I mean, because even though it was last week,
in the last episode, we talked about it on our last show.
Well, yeah, we kind of did, but we didn't get into. Actually, we didn't even get into the spoilers of in that.
Right.
But yeah, so yeah, there was the gang is still around, and there was definitely a change to Nezuko's character that's going to come into that's going to I guess reverberate throughout the next few season or two. I know that manga fans are probably already know about this, but some of us who are just watching the anime don't. So back up off of us.
Right.
Because I know somebody goes like, well, it was in the anime, blah, 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 blah. I mean, and then manga, blah, 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 blah. But yeah. Because if you had heard Agent 70 and I talking last week after the show about, well, even, excuse me, before the show, about that finale, we had some feelings.
Yeah,
about
pretty much.
Part. So it was funny. Anyway, that's
pretty
that.
much.
Next up.
Alrighty, so a ranking of King's anime film has been announced, and the film will be a completely new theatrical release. So the announcement came during a special program looking back at both the first TV anime series and the Treasure Chest of Courage side story anime of Ranking of Kings. Details of the film, including the story director and more, have not yet been confirmed. But yeah, it's coming out.
Indeed. Thanks to Agent 70 for bringing this story up. Dragon Ball movies hit Crunchyroll, and with more to come. So, folks, if you have not seen the first 2011 Dragon Ball movies, and I'm slightly exaggerating, even though there have been a lot of them. There's like probably, 16? I don't know. Of the original joints. They're all on Crunchyroll. A lot of them on Crunchyroll. There's specifically the Dragon Ball Z ones. It doesn't say here whether the Dragon Ball ones are on here. Nope. All of these are Dragon Ball Z. So that's Dead Zone, World's Strongest, Tree of Might. Wait, I don't see Tree of Might actually. Hold on. Yeah. See, Dead Zone, World's. Oh no, Tree of Might is there. Okay.
Tree of Might is there. Yeah. I was about to say, if you keep scrolling, it actually says on June 29th, the remaining Dragon Ball Z films will also arrive on Crunchyroll. So it's almost a week later.
Right, but those are still the Z ones, though. So basically, all of the Dragon Ball Z,
the Broly ones, yeah.
Right. So all of the Dragon Ball Z ones up to Wrath of the Dragon and Bio Broly and all of that, which good because like I said, like I was telling Agent 70 prior to, I think all of the ones up until Broly, I have. So and the ones after that I have not seen.
Right. So apparently there's even more coming out on July 6th.
Yes. Which is basically the last. Wait, I thought that was already out. So Dragon Ball Z Resurrection of F and Dragon Ball Super Broly. Okay, that one I hadn't seen. But Resurrection.
That's the newest one.
Right. Resurrection of F I have.
Except for Superhero, right.
Right. And Super Broly I have not seen because those are the last two in that outside of the one that just came out.
Right. No, I've seen Superhero.
Right. And that's the very last one that just came out. So, but yeah, still, like I said, no Dragon Ball, just Dragon Ball Z stuff, unless that's coming at a certain time, but this article's not saying. But hey, if you haven't seen any of those, after July 6th, all of them are going to be there.
Cool beans.
Yeah, up until Super Broly, which I, again, haven't seen, but because I'm not caught up on Dragon Ball Super. And Resurrection of F was basically the first arc. Of Super, so right. There's that. Actually, I think I feel like there was another movie that was also there, but whatever. Next up, comic book news.
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice.
All right, I guess I'll lead off here. Wedding bells are ringing again. Somebody's getting married. Come on, folks. That's a shout out to an earlier time.
Sure.
This time it's probably the last two characters anyone would have expected to tie the knot in the Marvel Universe.
Accurate.
IGN exclusively revealed that, spoiler alert, Emma Frost and Tony Stank will be getting married in the pages of X-Men number 26 and The Invincible Iron Man number 10 this fall. Both issues are written by Jerry Duggan, with Stefano Caselli drawing X-Men number 26 and Juan Frigeri drawing The Invincible Iron Man number 10. So this plot twist is the latest example of increased connectivity between the X-Men and Iron Man lines in recent months, obviously because of Duggan writing both.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So obviously this probably ties into that whole Tony Stark becoming the Black King and et cetera, et cetera. But also breaking Tony Stark's track record of dating redheads.
Pretty much.
Yeah, no. Also, speaking of going into the next story, this self-same cover, which you can see if you're watching the video version, kind of has a spoiler for something that we pretty much knew was going to, well, potentially spoiled for something that we knew was going to happen, or happened by now, or happened by then, I should say. Marvel may have spoiled a dead character's return. On said cover for that X-Men book, we see one Kamala Khan on the shoulder of, and I think that's also America Chavez on the other side of her shoulder. But regardless, Kamala Khan is on the shoulder of Stinger, who is also in the cover shot of that. Also, that looks like the Wizard back there, or is that another? Oh, that's Ironheart. I'm sorry, and the sketching looks weird, but that's Ironheart. So yeah, yeah. Whether that was obviously, well, I feel like that's probably intentional one way or another, but we don't know whether that means she's going to be back by the time this happens or not. I mean, fairly likely, but we don't know. Next up.
All right. A one-shot prelude, which is a preview of Fall of X, focuses on Apocalypse and his wife Genesis. So Before the Fall is a series of one-shots that help lay the groundwork for Fall of X, which officially kicks off next month in the Hellfire Gala, after the X-Men have celebrated victories and cemented themselves as a major force in the Marvel Universe. The Fall of X promises to fracture mutant kind like never before. Each Before the Fall one-shot puts the spotlight on an X-Men series and its featured characters, with Heralds of Apocalypse catching up with the former Quiet Council member. Okay.
So y'all want to see a dope album cover done by Pepe Larraz? Check out the video version of this here podcast for that cover of that Heralds of Apocalypse book. A new Werewolf by Night comic has been announced. Wednesday, Marvel announced a new Werewolf by Night comic featuring the eponymous lycanthrope teaming up with Elsa Bloodstone. Can we say MCUification possibly? Maybe. But the comic is being written by Derek Landy and drawn by Fran Galen. Or Galan. It says here certain sections of the stylish supernatural epic will be presented in black and white. Come on. I didn't even read that part before, and it's already there. If you watch that Werewolf by Night special, you know what I'm talking about. But reflecting the player's conflicting moods and unique hunting styles. So, when is this thing going to happen? Oh, also, I guess it's September, which also I should go ahead and tell you that September solicitations, which is I think is a thing I haven't said in a minute, are out for both DC and Marvel. So some of this news is kind of coming from there. Next up.
Shout out to our colleague, our co-host in absentia at TimDog98, Timothy Adams, for writing the previous story that I spoke about, the X-Men Before the Fall of X previews.
Oh.
So I just wanted to shout him out before I closed out that article. Next up, Marvel's Venom is getting another upgraded form. Spoiler alert for Venom number 21, which is out, I think, this week.
That's probably true.
It's out this week. I'm going to take a look very
I'm not
quickly.
seeing it.
Yes, it is.
But maybe I didn't put it. I probably didn't put it in that where I have it. Okay.
Yeah, it's out this week, but neither of us read it.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, Venom did whatchamacallit? Let's see what Al Ewing has done, or Al Ewing and Ram V. Let's see what they've done. Oh, I see.
Folks watching the video version already see what he's seeing.
Yeah, I see it. So it's a very classic Spider-esque move. We'll put it that way.
Sure.
All righty.
Next up, Frank Miller returns to Daredevil. But not as writer. It looks like it's just a variant cover that he's doing that will be available as a 1/100th version of variant cover, and it will ship September 13th with, what book is that with? Didn't say. Whatever's coming out in September, I guess, for Daredevil. Oh, Daredevil number 1. Excuse me. I'm sorry. It's right there. So yeah, it's a Frank Miller variant for Daredevil number 1 when that restarts in September. Next up.
All righty. So you can read the complete Secret Invasion Marvel comic book on Marvel Unlimited in 2 ways. Obviously, the original way that it was presented, and now in a Infinity Comics adaptation. So you can read Secret Invasion Infinity Comic number 1 through 18 so that you can go through it using the Infinity Comics style, panel to panel.
Mm-hmm.
And scrolling up and down.
Right. Webtoons like
right
in that, although they don't use those terms. But as Agent 70 said, yes, there's also another way that you can read it. And that's straight through Marvel Unlimited app, of course, which is, again, not a sponsor, we're just saying. But as we were told before the show, you can get the trade of Secret Invasion for free if you go to marvel.com/redeem and put in the code Skrulls. You obviously have to have an account with marvel.com, but you can definitely do that.
Right. And if you have Marvel Unlimited, it will show up in your library on the app.
Right.
I did it already, so that's how I know.
Right.
Next up, Marvel announces an Obi-Wan Kenobi Disney Plus series adaptation. So in the vein of the Mandalorian live-action adaptation into the comic book format, Star Wars is giving the Obi-Wan Kenobi Disney Plus series another go, but as a comic book series. It will drop in September, and it'll be a 6-issue miniseries that adapts the events of the live-action series onto the comic book page, 1 episode per issue.
Mm-hmm. Speaking
it will
of...
be written, I'm sorry, the creative team
right.
is Jody Hauser and artist Salvador LaRocca. Okay.
Yeah, I was just going to say, speaking of the Mandalorian's adaptation, the season 2 adaptation started also this week.
Right.
Of the Mandalorian, so that's out there if you want to read it in book form. Marvel and Random House Worlds announced What If adult novel series. It's going to launch in 2024 with the first title, What If Loki Was Worthy, and a Loki and Valkyrie story by Madeline Rue. So yeah, this is a prose book that's going to happen and not a comic book. And it says October 2024. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. The first book is going to come out, the aforementioned first book is going to come out March 12th, 2024, followed by Wanda Maximoff and Peter Parker Were Siblings, Scarlet Witch and Spider-Man story by Shannon McGuire, publishing in July 2024, And What If Mark Special was a host of Venom, a Moon Knight and Venom story by Mike Chen, publishing in October 2024. Which I would imagine around one of these times, the next installment of What If Season 2 will likely be out on Disney+. But I don't think it says here because it doesn't go into that. So if any of that sounds familiar, sounds good to you, check it out. Next up.
Bethesda Softworks' upcoming Indiana Jones game is exclusive to Xbox consoles and PC. Head of publishing Pete Hines said during the Microsoft and Activision Blizzard Federal Trade Commission hearing on Thursday. The game is also expected to be available at release on Xbox Game Pass.
So what's that?
I'm saying this was originally announced as a project in development in 2021, just months after Microsoft announced its acquisition of ZeniMax Media, which is the holding company of or parent company of ZeniMax, of Bethesda Softworks, that is.
Right. Now, not one, boo, two, not surprising, because Bethesda being wholly owned by Microsoft, something was going to happen at some point with something like this. So not surprising, but if you've got Game Pass, and I don't know too many people who don't, which you probably don't care one way or the other. First look at Alice Never After from Boom Studios. All I'm going to say is that this is premiere issue of a 5-issue original series from Dan Panosian and artist Giorgio Spalletta, colorist Francesco Segala, and letterer Jeff Eckelberry. And it says here that wait, what is it? Yeah, okay, never mind. Because I was about to say, because it was basically I saw the flavor text on this is the short part of it, so it's not to go to read this whole thing, but it's a Alice in Wonderland's land story that's kind of mixed with Hereditary. That's what I heard. So if that's is something that or is it this next one? Nope, I'm sorry, that's the next one. But either way, it's a Alice in Wonderland story that's kind of dark, according to what this thing is saying. But if that's of some interest to you, check that out when it comes available July 2023, next month. Next up.
You can go over to gocollect.com or blog.gocollect.com and get a first look at Kill Your Darlings from Image Comics, which is something like Narnia meeting Hereditary, as Roddykat was referencing.
Right.
So this is a new epic beginning from debut writers Ethan S. Parker and Griffin Sheridan and superstar art team Bob Quinn and John J. Hill. Okay. It's a dark fantasy adventure. Set to launch in September.
And not Jonah Hill, thank goodness. Tilly Walton's Clementine Book 2 trailer released by Skybound. So this is the second installment in the Clementine trilogy. It's set in the world, obviously, of Robert Kirkman's The Walking Dead and follows the 2023 Eisner Award-nominated Clementine Book 1. Looks like there's the trailer is attached to this article. So if any of that I said sounds interesting to you and you know who the Clementine is, have at it. Next up.
Alrighty, so IDW has announced that there is a new series about Jean-Luc Picard's youth, specifically his time at Starfleet Academy. And this new series is going to be called Star Trek. Actually, no, is there a title in here?
Yes.
I'm looking for it.
Well, the cover is anyway. But
Star Trek Picard's Academy. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it is. Okay.
You can
all right, that's cool. And when does this drop? Looking. September.
Mm-hmm.
Star Trek Picard's Academy #1 goes on sale in September.
Yeah.
Basically, what you're looking for is when Picard had hair.
Right. Or probably after that one episode where they turned him back into a where they turned him into a kid. Yeah. Disney's evil Darkwing Duck doppelganger gets his own nefarious series. Okay, shout out to the article writer for that title. Negaduck. Obviously trying to pronounce that very correctly. Because it can sound very differently coming out of some people's mouths, including mine with being Southern and all. But Dynamite Entertainment announces the Negaduck series, which will be written by Jeff Parker with art by Ciro Cangilos. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. The first issue will have many variant covers by a bunch of people. Of course it does, because those things have been getting variants left and right. The comics will cover the villainous candy-stealing doppelganger and his exciting crime spree, which we haven't seen him in the pages of Darkwing Duck yet. So I suspect by the time we do, that's when this thing will probably pop off, I guess. But September 13th is, yes, when the first issue is going to happen. Next up.
DC has announced the titles which are planned for Batman Day 2023, which hits on Saturday, September 16th. And there will be 5 Batman Day exclusives, 2 promotional comics, 2 exclusive reprints, and the launch of a brand new prestige format series from writer-artist Raphael Grandpa. For fans of Michael Keaton's Batman, there's even an exclusive edition of Sam Hamm's Batman 89 miniseries in hardcover. So there will be more announcements in the weeks to come. There have been things like theatrical releases, toys, and merch, and of course the bat signal shining on the Empire State Building for Batman Day. The special editions include Batman, Catwoman Prelude to Gotham War, a Batman Day exclusive version of Batman and the Joker, The Deadly Duo #1, and Batman #608, the first issue of Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee's Hush, featuring a special Jim Lee foil cover. Okay.
Actually, that just reminded me of a book that I had intended to read this week. That speaking of, but if you're watching the video version, you can see this. I think the '89 adaptation of Batman the movie, the Batman '89 movie, was also put out this week. That was written by Dennis O'Neil and Jerry Ordway. So I don't know if you're interested in that. Hey, that is out this week. Last but not least, I should have probably had Agent 70 take this one, but Nicolas Cage appears as Superman on DC cover.
Because of course not. Of course, why not, right?
Right. If you're watching the video version, you can see Nick Cage's soups along with Batman and Superman. So yeah, this was a variant of Batman and Superman 16. World's Finest, 16. Oh no, I'm sorry. No. That is wrong. That's actually wrong. It is for Batman Superman World's Finest, but it's for 19, which is not out yet. So 16 came out this week. So my apologies. So that is coming up. And the cover is being done by Dan Mora, whose art I love. But this is funny. Now wonder...
Definitely timely.
Yes, I was about to say, now wonder why would Nick Cage be getting a variant cover for a Batman Superman book? Weird.
Wait a second. We have a reaction for this. I mean, not this.
Emotional damage.
It's not that.
No, not
It's
that.
really this.
These are things that make you say,
Indeed. And that's all we'll say about that.
Right.
But yeah, it's like I said, if you're watching the video version, you can see the cover in itself, and I'm sure it'll probably come back up when we talk about that particular issue coming up. All right, folks, and with that, that is in the news. Let me get one last ad read.
Our last ad read of the night is for Amazon. Keep our podcast free by shopping at Amazon. keep our podcast free, that is, visit cspn.us, then click the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down and click on the Amazon link to shop. Purchase items from Amazon as you normally would, whether it's books, music, electronics, jewelry, apparel, or Marvel Legends. For every purchase made on Amazon through our link, Amazon sends the CSPN a payment that helps us keep the Comic Book Chronicles podcast free for our listeners at no extra cost to you. If you shop at Amazon often, bookmark the link or add it as your homepage so that you can help the CSPN each time you order. We thank you for your support. Amazon.com through CSPN.us. Do it today.
And folks, that brings us to the end of this here podcast. We appreciate you for being here, whether live or after the fact. We appreciate views and reviews and all that kind of good stuff. But we'll get into that in a second. I have been Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News Nurse Needle on Twitter. You can find me at CBCats on Instagram. Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram. PCN_dirt on Twitter, Pop Culture Net on Twitter, popculturenetwork.com is all the umbrella sites there in. And Tim, DOGG98 on Twitter, the Osiris of this ish. You can also find him at CBCron on Twitter, which is the Comic Book Chronicles Twitter account. The Click Nation on Twitter, that's TheKliqNation, all one word, theclicknation.com. But most likely you will definitely find him over at comicbook.com as Timothy Adams writing his face off. Go check out the man's works. You can find this here podcast on the Close to the Podcast Network, the CSPN.us.
Do it today.
Hopefully you have done your homework and watched the Cold Slither episode of G.I. Joe that is out there on Hasbro's YouTube site. If you haven't, shame on you. But yes, you could find this here podcast also on your podcast perusal police of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coastal Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. Oh, by the way, season 1 of Beast Wars, I think I said this already, it's also out there on the Transformers official site. I think they have most of them out there. They're steadily getting them, and they also have a live channel that's playing, just basically randomly playing them all that you're doing G.I. Joe. So, hey, check that out. No sponsor, just saying, this is a good show. Check it out. But you could find us recording every Thursday night, mostly every Thursday night, 9:30-ish p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the YouTube channel of The Click Nation. That's youtube.com/TheClickNation and twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles. Appreciate folks
I was about to say, make sure to hit like and subscribe and all that stuff.
Okay, yeah, I was about to say, I didn't thought you were going to forego that tonight. But yeah, thanks for everybody again, like I said, for being with us live, or if you're catching us after the fact, we appreciate it. Next week, more Secret Invasion. For the first time in a good minute, I don't think we have movie protocol. Yes, that is correct, because there's nothing.
We
coming
definitely
out.
don't have it next week, because next week would have been Indiana Jones. I have not received word that we are going to watch that, so we will probably have, I think what we've guesstimated right now is a good month or so until the next time we go into movie protocol. The next likely time that we go into movie protocol, not confirmed, this is just speculation and conjecture at this time, would be the next Mission Impossible.
Yes, and tickets are actually, I think tickets just went on sale for that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think so too.
So, and they've definitely been hitting press circuits out there, circuits, not circus, although it is a circus. So anyway, yeah, we'll let you know about all of that, come time. And with that, folks, this has been the Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.
Peace. One.
I love it when a plan comes together.